Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Tevaron here, and welcome to another episode of Friday Night Magic. And for those of you who might have been wondering when we were going to revisit humans, well, wait no more, because that is what we are doing today. Mono-white humans, the aggro deck du jour of the Magic Duels format, at least for now. I've seen a couple of red-green werewolf decks that were incredibly aggressive. I haven't tried out that archetype myself yet. That may be something we look into in the future, but enough rambling. Let's see what we're running post-Eldritch Moon release. We are running one Kytheon, Hero of Akros. The 2 1-for-1 body is great. Everybody always loves the Savannah Lion, and his ability to make himself indestructible is also rather nice, and should you manage to flip him into Gideon Battleforged, well, that's just gravy, because then he is a planeswalker who could become a 4/4 beat stick, or protect your creatures, or force a creature to attack him. We are also running 3 Anointer of Champions, 1 white for a 1/1 who can tap to give target attacking creature +1/+1 until end of turn, which is fine in and of itself, but when you combine that with our pump enchantment of choice, well, the only one really that's in Magic Duels, Always Watching, then you have a bit of a broken mechanic, because Always Watching gives non-token creatures you control vigilance and +1/+1, which means that the Anointer of Champions can attack without having to tap, and then tap to give an attacking creature +1/+1. We are also running 3 Expedition Envoys. Again, the 1 mana for 2/1 is very good value, and that ends our 1-drops in the deck. We're running 2 Hanweir Militia Captains. For 1 and a white, we get a 2/2. Who, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 4 or more creatures, transforms into Westvale Cult Leader, whose power and toughness are then equal to the number of creatures you control, and at the beginning of each of your end steps, he puts out a 1/1 white and black human cleric onto the battlefield. 2 Thalia's Lieutenant, 1 and a white for a 1/1, but when she enters the battlefield, we get to put a +1/+1 counter on each other human we control, and whenever another human enters the battlefield while Thalia's Lieutenant is in play, then she gets a +1/+1 counter. You may be noticing a theme of synergy here. 2 Knight of the White Orchid for 2 white is a 2/2 first striker, and when Knight of the White Orchid comes into play, if it should happen to be that the opponent has more lands than us, well then we get to search our library for a plains and put it onto the battlefield. That plains does not count toward our 1 land per turn limit, so this, if we have a plains already in hand, will allow us to leapfrog the opponent in mana. It also thins out the deck. We don't want to be drawing a ton of lands with this low-to-the-ground aggro deck. We are running a few non-human creatures in the deck, the first of which is Selfless Spirit. The reason we're running this is because for a white and 1 we get a 2/1 flyer. That's not the important part. The important part is this bit of text right here. We can sacrifice Selfless Spirit, and when we do, creatures we control gain indestructible until end of turn. So Selfless Spirit is a good hedge against board wipes that aren't Languish, Planar Outburst, Radiant Flames, Kozilek's Return, so on and so forth. Languish will still kill all of our creatures that have toughness 4 or less, because the minuses get around the indestructible clause. We are running 3 Consul's Lieutenants. For 2 white, we get a 2/1 first striker with Renown 1. When it deals damage to an opponent, then it gets a +1/+1 counter, and while it is renowned, whenever it attacks, it gives all of our other attacking creatures +1/+1 until end of turn. We are running 4 Topan Freeblade. I know a lot of people think Topan Freeblade is rather bland and boring. I say you don't have to be exciting when you're beating the opponent's face in. For 1 and a white, we get a 2/2 creature with Vigilance, and Vigilance means that it does not have to tap to attack, and it is also Renown 1 when it deals damage to a player, then it gets a +1/+1 counter. We're running 2 Declaration in Stone. For 1 and a white, we exile target creature and all other creatures its controller controls with the same name as that creature. That player then investigates for each non-token creature exiled this way. Declaration in Stone is a great removal spell and is at its best in an aggressive deck that doesn't give your opponent time enough to crack any clues that you are giving them. New addition with Eldritch Moon is a pair of Thalia, Heretic Cathar. For 2 and a white, we get a 3/2 first striker. Creatures and non-basic lands our opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. That may seem just annoying on the surface, but in reality, when Thalia is out there, she's basically putting your opponent a turn behind almost all of the time, which is just great. Gives us that little bit of extra time that an aggro deck like this might normally not get. And so we come to the second of our non-human creatures in the deck, a pair of Bygone Bishop. For 2 and a white, we get a 2/3 with Flying, that whenever we cast a creature spell with converted mana cost 3 or less, we get to investigate. And this gives us a little bit of card advantage in a deck that otherwise wouldn't have that. 2 Always Watching, as we have discussed previously. 2 Make a Stand. For 2 and a white, we have an instant that gives creatures we control +1/+0 and indestructible until end of turn. This serves the dual purpose of keeping our creatures alive in the face of removal that doesn't give them minuses on defense, and giving them a little bit more attack power to possibly push through the last little bit of damage needed to finish the opponent off. 2 Collective Effort. 2 white and 1 for a card with Escalate. And what Escalate allows us to do is choose extra modes. Normally we would only get to choose 1 for the 2 white and 1, but for each creature we tap, in addition to the 2 white and 1, we get to choose an additional mode. So we can destroy target creature with power 4 or greater, destroy target enchantment, or put a +1/+1 counter on each creature target player controls. That would be our creatures. I don't think we want to give our opponent +1/+1 counters on their creatures, if we can help it. And here we are at yet more non-human creatures. We are running 1 Gisela, the Broken Blade, as 1 is all we are allowed to run. For 2 and 2 white, she is a 4/3 with Flying, First Strike, and Lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, if you both own and control Gisela the Broken Blade and a creature named Bruna, the Fading Light, exile them, then meld them into Gisela, Voice of Nightmares. Unfortunately, we are not running Bruna in this deck. She has a mana cost of 7, and that is well out of the curve that we want to be trying to run. So there will be no melding of Gisela, Voice of Nightmares in this particular deck. We are also running a singleton Angelic Destiny. For 2 and 2 white, it is an aura that enchants a creature. The creature which it enchants gets +4/+4 and has Flying and First Strike and is an angel in addition to its other types. Also, when the enchanted creature dies, return Angelic Destiny to its owner's hand. Very, very good pump spell there. 1 Gideon, ally of Zendikar. For 2 and 2 white, we have a 4 loyalty planeswalker. His +1 ability allows him to become a 5/5 human soldier ally creature with indestructible that's still a planeswalker. And also, we prevent all damage that would be dealt to him this turn. His 0 ability is to put out a 2/2 white knight ally creature token onto the battlefield. And his -4 is we get an emblem that has creatures we control get +1/+1. And finally, our final non-human creature in the deck, Archangel Avacyn, who has been kicking butts and taking names for several months now. She is a 2 white and 3/4/4 creature with flash, flying, and vigilance. When she enters the battlefield, creatures we control gain indestructible until end of turn. And when a non-angel creature we control dies, transform her at the beginning of the next upkeep into Avacyn the Purifier, who is a 6/5 flyer, and when she flips to Avacyn the Purifier, it deals 3 damage to each other creature and each opponent. The mana base is exceedingly simple: 20 plains, 2 Westvale Abbeys. I will also leave the deck list in the description below, along with a link to Magic Duels Helper if you would prefer that format for viewing it. And now, on to the gameplay. Okay, this is a good hand. I will be keeping it. We've got 1 drop into multiple 2 drops and a 3 drop. And we have 2 plains, so that's great. Wouldn't mind drawing a few more, but we definitely don't want to draw too many lands. And it appears we're playing in a mirror match. So we'll drop our Anointer of Champions, which should keep this Kytheon at bay should our opponent not have a way to pump him up in some fashion or remove our Anointer. Well, Sandstone Bridge will do the pumping. So we'll be taking 3 here. And we will not be blocking. Alright, let's get in there with our Anointer of Champions, see if they're willing to trade off Kytheon for our less effective 1 drop. It appears they are not. And we will be playing Topan Freeblade. Would very much like to draw a land next turn to allow us to play Always Watching. Looks like we're playing against blue-white here instead of mono-white. Not willing to offer the trade with Kytheon there, and we did indeed draw another plane, so we'll be dropping our Always Watching. And then swinging with everything. And I dare say the opponent won't be blocking, and they don't. So we will use Anointer of Champions to pump herself up to a 3/3. Our Freeblade will become renowned, and as such will become a 4/4. And we are now in pretty decent shape. We may not stay that way, especially if the opponent has that card right there, Reflector Mage, to set us back a bit. Still, I don't think we're in too bad of shape right now. We are winning the damage race at present. And a Plains was a good draw. We can drop 2 spells this turn. The question is, do we want to drop 2 creatures or cast Declaration in Stone on, say, Kytheon? And I think we want to cast 1 Captain. Then we will go to attacks and see what our opponent chooses to do. And they are going to block. Well then, let's pump her up. And now I think it's probably in our best interest to just clear the opponent's board completely. Good deal. Land drop number 4 for the opponent. And Royal Spout, putting something on top of our library. Alrighty then. So they're trying to play a much more tempo-y build of deck than what we are. So, let's go ahead and attack. There's not a lot they can do with 1 mana, but still. And we are going to pump the Anointer, taking our opponent to 10. And they are 1 mana off having a sweeper of one form or another, Planar Outburst or Tragic Arrogance. So, I'm going to play around that a bit because I don't know their build for sure, and just play out our Topan Freeblade and pass. That way, if they have a board wipe, it will not be quite so painful for us. And they do not, but they do have another Royal Spout. And sack the clue. Alright. We certainly didn't know we were going to be drawing that, now did we? Let's go ahead and attack again. Confirm. And pump. Good deal. I think at this point that we're going to go ahead and just play out the Bygone Bishop. That way if it lives and stays on the board till next turn, we can start generating some clues. And we're very close to actually having lethal damage on board for next turn. And looks like they have conceded. We'll continue playing, as it's not quite over yet. See, they had a declaration in stone. And an always watching. And we have a second always watching of our own. Well, for now, I think we're going to sacrifice this clue and see what we draw. Another Bygone Bishop, good. And then we'll replay our Topan Freeblade and swing for 3. We'll attack and pump, taking them down to 4. And now, if either one of our creatures survives and they don't have a way to mitigate the damage, this always watching will make either creature lethal next turn. Hello, Thalia. Well, I'm going to try for always watching. Looks like it's resolving. And swing all out. Alright, just to make sure, we'll pump our Anointer. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Okay, this is way too high of a curve to be keeping. Let's draw another. That's a bit more like it. Alright, Evolving Wilds from the opponent. Okay. Fetch a mountain and onto us. Would like to go ahead and play out this lovely plains. There we go. Anointer of Champions that we were so kindly gifted on our draw step. Ooh, a Forerunner of Slaughter. Very nice. Well, let's play Consul's Lieutenant and kind of hold that Forerunner back. And we'll just pass without attacking, please. Oh, Smoldering Marsh and Eldrazi Mimic. Leads me to believe there shall be more Eldrazi forthcoming. I think it's probably a safe assumption. First of all, we will swing with our Consul's Lieutenant. Confirm. Don't expect it will be blocked, and it's not. We will take the opportunity then to get an extra point in. And then we will do some mana leapfrog. Knight of the White Orchid. Our opponent has more land than we do. So we will fetch a Plains. And then play our land for turn and cast a second Consul's Lieutenant. Seems pretty good. At least to me. Hello, Vile Aggregate. Trigger here for a 3/5. Well, we won't be blocking that if it comes this way. Skip blocking. What do we do here? We could swing out with everything and cast Make a Stand. We could also cast Always Watching, which would allow us to swing with just these three, and Anointer could take whatever gets blocked by Vile Aggregate's defense up enough that the Vile Aggregate can't kill it. I think that's probably the better play. Yep, we will swing with our first strikers, which now don't have to tap to attack, which is just lovely. Trigger from the renowned Consul's Lieutenant. And they said that's enough. We'll continue. And we'll also pump up this Consul's Lieutenant, which got blocked, which will kill off this Vile Aggregate. And now our second Consul's Lieutenant will become renowned as well. And barring Languish or a 3-mana Radiant Flames right here, I think we've got this game. Hello, Matter Reshaper. Think that Eldrazi Mimic's probably going to just hang back. Try not to die to our first strikers here. Alright, we'll play out this Plains. And then we are going to swing with everything. Double renowned triggers, making our guys enormous. And they have to block or they die. To block 3 of these. Alright, well, let's get an extra point of damage in, shall we? No use casting Make a Stand here. It will only net us 1 more point of damage. That's fine. And these guys are not in danger of dying because they have first strike in any case. And also no need to play out anything else and expose it to removal. Just hold up, Make a Stand. Another Matter Reshaper, that's fine as well. And Reaver Drone, okay. Either which way you cut it, this attack should be lethal. And we will make it so. Again, double renowned triggers. And block as you will, there is 4 damage getting through. And I will see you guys in the next one. Alright, I will keep this, and we may, judging by this avatar, beginning to see how we... Oh, no, I was about to see how we stack up against mono red, but it looks like it is red-blue. Probably a prowess type deck, if what I've faced thus far is any indication. Maybe even a Niblis of Frost type of deck that's trying to just keep everything we've got tapped down while it kills us. Which I don't think we've got too good of a matchup against if the Niblis of Frost actually sticks. Well, let's go ahead and attack with this Expedition Envoy. Then again, it could be Thopters. Foundry of the Consuls doesn't necessarily dictate Thopters, though it is in a Thopter deck usually. Alright, Twin Bolt. Taking out our Topan Freeblade. Would have much rather that they use that on the Expedition Envoy, but they're a better player than that apparently. Second Foundry and Thopter Engineer, so it is indeed Thopters. Looks like we're getting smacked for one, which is fine by me. That allows us to play Always Watching and be able to attack safely with our Expedition Envoy. And there is Thalia as well. Yeah, we'll go ahead and play out the Always Watching. Was debating dropping the Thalia. That would cause us to not be able to swing with the Envoy this turn, though. Okay. Highland Lake. Well, Thalia wouldn't have done much then. That land comes into play tapped regardless. Looks like they are happy to trade back and forth with 3 damage for 1 damage. Leads me to believe they've got some kind of removal in hand. Well, let's go ahead and see what happens here. Okay, they're going to block and disperse their... Oh, just the Always Watching. Okay, then. That's fine. Well, we will play Thalia. And Chief of the Foundry making Thopters bigger. So we'll take 2. Would like to see a land here. Make a stand, okay. Well, let's replay Always Watching. And crash with Thalia. Alright, happy to trade off the Thopter Engineer at that point, it looks like. And the 3rd Foundry of the Consuls. And the 2nd Chief of the Foundry. Declaration in Stone is going to be very nice here, I think. And we finally got our 4th land. Good. Let's go ahead and declaration these chiefs. Think giving the opponent a couple of clues is well worth the price there. Go ahead and swing them down to 11. And we will go ahead and play out our Topan Freeblade, I think. Hopefully There is not a Thopter spy network or something similar coming. They do have the mana now to start popping these foundries, though. Right. Popping clues. And Juriper Gearcrafter. More Thopters on the way. Thalia is so good making those creatures come into play tapped. Hello, Gisela. Fancy seeing you here. Well, before we do anything, we're going to attack. And they are preventing our Freeblade from becoming renowned and doing that, so we will make a stand, shall we? Would like to keep my Topan Freeblade, thank you very much. Hello, Chandra. And hello, second Gearcrafter. Which conveniently for the opponent untaps Chandra. Don't know that they want to be blocking with her, but they do have that opportunity now. I think we're going to overextend because our opponent has an empty hand and hope that we don't get bitten for it. And Lieutenant. And attack. If our opponent wants to trade off Chandra and the Gearcrafter for Topan Freeblade, I am quite happy with that exchange. Looks like they want to keep the Chandra though. If they don't find some way to deal with one of these creatures before our next upkeep, this Hanweir Militia Captain is going to flip into Westvale Cult Leader. And it looks like they're not going to be able to deal with them. Alright. Going to play our planes. And we will swing with everything that's not Thalia's Lieutenant. Confirm. Alrighty. Taking our opponent to 1. To 2, okay. Chose a better block in that situation there. And pinging us with Chandra. They do have these foundries, so they can hold out for a little while here. Alright, and when this generates a cleric at the end of turn, it will pump our Thalia's Lieutenant because it is a human. We will go ahead and play Gisela as well. And they are indeed popping a foundry. They have to do that now. If they try to do it in response to our attack, as you see, they will come into play tapped and be unable to block. Alright, getting pinged by Chandra. They must have a red spell in hand to play here. Fiery Impulse. Probably killing the Lieutenant, and it is. Okay. I don't know why they pinged us. That makes them dead. Which I guess they were dead in any case, because they could only block 3. Either way. Attack. And let us continue on our face-stomping expedition. Okay, I think this is fine. We will keep this. We do need some top decks of lands to make it the best that it can be. And there we go. Still need one more so that we can play Angelic Destiny, but being at 3 can play everything else in our hand at present. Alright, Simic colors across the way there. We'll be swinging with Expedition Envoy. And playing out Topan Freeblade, if she will oblige. Alright, black added to the mix, and there's Tireless Tracker. Would like to be able to remove that guy, but don't have the means to at present. I think I'm going to go ahead and attack, which I should have played out the third land first, but I would definitely trade either of these for that tracker at present. Looks like the opponent's not willing to make that trade, so my little mistake there shall go unpunished. Third land would have allowed me to play Make a Stand if they blocked. I'm going to play Bygone Bishop. Could play the Kytheon and try to get it flipped the next turn. Would like to be mana efficient though. That will allow us to go ahead and drop Angelic Destiny on something. Hopefully. And our opponent is ramping. Hopefully we can get something going before it's too late. Have to kill them quickly, otherwise their huge spells are going to just take the game over. So, we will play our Angelic Destiny on the Topan Freeblade. Make sure it doesn't get killed by the Tireless Tracker. And we're going to continue to swing with all. Again, I would very gladly trade this Envoy for the Tireless Tracker. It looks like that's going to be the case. Our opponent goes to 5. And begins sacking some clues. And it's looking good for the home team. And that's that. Not going to bother to swing. We've got this game in the bag. On with the show. Alright. Not super happy with this hand, but I don't think it's worth mulliganing. We're going to keep. Would like to have a fourth or a third threat rather than either the fourth land or the Make a Stand. Would really like it if the game would let me play my lands when I click on them. Right, forced and pass for the opponent. Seems good for us at present. We'll get in there for 1 point of damages. And play out our Topan Freeblade. We drew Gisela that turn. Very good draw. Gives us a threat to play on 4. Hydrolan Arbor, so again we're looking at Simic thus far, and Elvish Visionary. So I think we'll probably just swing with the Freeblade this turn. I could swing with the Anointer. planning to use Make a Stand, but I'd rather play out Selfless Spirit. So, let's swing with our 2/2. And they do snap block off there, trying to preserve life total. We'll play out Westvale Abbey. And we'll play Selfless Spirit. And pass on over to the opponent. Hello, Sylvan Advocate. So again, looks like we're against Sultai of some sort. Knight of the White Orchid is a decent draw there. However, I kind of want to just play Gisela. First things first, though. We'll go like that. And the opponent is not blocking, so we will pump the Selfless Spirit. Our Freeblade is becoming renowned. And I'm just going to be a little bit conservative here. I'm not going to play either Gisela or the Knight because I suspect that we're going to see a Languish next turn, though maybe not, because they did play the Advocate out and then didn't block with it. So maybe we play Gisela. Of course, it could be that they're not blocking to make us overextend and then play the Languish. But let's take the risk. And there is the second black. But it's not a Languish, it's a Gavany Unhallowed. A 2/4 that gets a +1/+1 counter whenever another creature that they control dies. So, let's attack, shall we? Attack with the Flyers and with the Freeblade. If they don't block, we could play Make a Stand and take them to 2. I think that's probably a bad decision. I'm going to go ahead and pump the Topan Freeblade. And they should be going to 4, yep. So I guess we would have taken them to 1 actually, because that would have been +3 damage. I wasn't figuring in the pump on the Anointer of Champions in that previous math. Let's play our Plains, and I'm going to hold the Knight in hand and the Make a Stand up. Opponent hits 5 mana. Lashweed Lurker? What does Lashweed Lurker do? Bounces that. Okay, that's fine. That should be game. We've got 2 pump this and this to pump our flyer for 4 damage. Continue. This guy's not reach, right? No. Okay. Swing with the Spirit. We will pump it. And make a stand. Alright, well that's quite a few games, but the games are going really fast. So let's do one more, shall we? Alright. Again, I don't like the 4 lands, but the rest of the hand is fine. So let's see if we can finish out this whole video completely undefeated. Play out our Expedition Envoy. See what the opponent's working with. Well, they're definitely working with about 70 cards. That's for sure. 69 cards, actually. The magic number, I suppose. Hey, hello, always watching. Fancy seeing you here. They are Consul's Lieutenant. They led off with a Blighted Gorge. We may be looking at some Eldrazi. We'll attack for 2. Okay, so maybe not Eldrazi. We see a forest, so we know that they're on red and green with the Blighted Gorge there in the deck also. Well, I think we are going to go with Always Watching here, rather than expose more creatures to a potential Radiant Flames or Kozilek's Return. With the Renown, the Lieutenant would survive either at this point, as the opponent doesn't have the colored mana to allow for a 3 damage Radiant Flames. And if we make it back to next turn, the Thalia's Lieutenant can take the Expedition Envoy out of range as well. Ooh, hello. Scarecrow? 1/4, sacrifice it, and put 2 basic lands into your hand. Okay. Well, let's just pop everything out onto the board. Totally flood it all. Monstrously huge humans into the red zone. So either the opponent blocks, as they did, or they would have went to 2. As is, they will go to 7. Explosive Vegetation, I guess, into dead? So, I suppose that will be it for this episode of Friday Night Magic, friends. We did indeed manage to go undefeated with the Rampaging Human Menace. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please leave a like below. It really does help. If you didn't like it, well, the dislike button's right beside the like button. Consider subscribing to the channel. You'll be notified whenever I upload new content. And until next time, friends, be excellent to each other.